In the ancient world, long before recorded history, there existed a text that contained mysteries so profound they would continue to resonate through the ages. The Book of Enoch, considered by many to be one of the most mysterious and controversial works ever written, unveils stories that span across dimensions of heaven, earth, and the unknown. The story begins with the introduction of a man whose name was Enoch, an individual who was chosen, not only to walk among the living but also to step into realms where few had tread before. If you're interested in this topic and want to learn more, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss out on future videos that will definitely surprise you. Enoch was not simply a prophet, he was a visionary, a man who saw the hidden face of the world and gained access to secrets that were reserved for the divine. The book opens with his journey to the heavens, where he encounters the Watchers, beings of light who had once belonged to the heavenly host. But these were no ordinary angels. These celestial beings, tasked with observing the earth, had a role far more intricate and dangerous than they initially understood. The Book of Enoch paints a picture of a world teetering on the brink of moral decay, where the Watchers had descended not just to observe, but to intervene. They had been sent by God to guide humanity. However, in an act that would forever alter the course of human history, they broke their divine mandate. Their decision to engage with the daughters of men would lead to the birth of beings who were neither fully divine nor fully human. The descendants of these fallen angels and human women were the Nephilim, a race of giants who would go on to cause chaos on earth. But the real mystery that the Book of Enoch reveals is the purpose behind the Watchers' descent. It wasn't just about breeding giants or corrupting humanity, it was about knowledge. The Watchers shared with humans forbidden wisdom, knowledge that was intended to remain in the hands of the divine. They taught the people about sorcery, the secrets of the heavens, the movements of the stars, and even the art of war. This knowledge had the potential to uplift humanity, but it was far too dangerous in the hands of a world already ripe with sin. This section of the story is about the unveiling of secrets. Enoch, as the chosen witness, is able to see what others cannot. He witnesses the unfolding of a cosmic drama, where the boundaries between the celestial and earthly realms blur. The book's content spans the divine hierarchy, showing how even beings as pure as the angels can fall, just as humans are capable of rising above their limitations. The ancient secrets of Enoch have been hidden for millennia, only accessible to a few. These hidden truths echo through the ages, revealing the connections between divine beings and humanity. The story is not merely a tale of cosmic rebellion, it is a narrative about the consequences of overstepping divine boundaries, about forbidden knowledge, and about how those who seek to uncover the ultimate truths may inadvertently release powers far beyond their control. Enoch's unique position as the intermediary between the heavens and the earth means that he carries an immense responsibility. He is not only tasked with revealing the hidden realities, but with sharing them in a way that doesn't cause further destruction. The story is one of caution, a reminder that some knowledge can be so powerful, so dangerous, that it is better left undiscovered. In the end, this section sets the stage for the rest of the narrative. It lays the foundation for the unfolding drama, where divine beings fall from grace, and humanity is left to reckon with the consequences. This part of the tale is about the origins of the conflict, the rise of the Nephilim, and the aftermath of forbidden wisdom. It is a story not just of angels and giants, but of the very human quest to understand the universe, a quest that often comes with dire consequences. The descent of the Watchers marks the beginning of a cosmic shift that would shape the destiny of both heaven and earth. These beings, once part of the divine order, were tasked with a sacred mission, to observe the evolution of humanity and guide them in their spiritual journey. But their mission would soon evolve into something far more complicated, and ultimately dangerous. The Watchers, described as angels of great power and beauty, were created by God to act as stewards over the earth. Their role was to monitor the human race, ensuring that divine principles were followed. But as they gazed down upon the growing civilization of humans, something began to stir in them. They began to question their purpose and their separation from humanity. Could they remain distant observers, or would their involvement lead to something greater? It wasn't long before the Watchers made a decision that would forever alter the course of history. Led by a group of leaders, they chose to descend from their heavenly domain and interact with the mortal world in a way they were never meant to. They broke the heavenly decree, stepping down to earth not only to observe but to partake in the creation of life. The angels' fall was not one of simple rebellion, it was an act of desire. They saw the beauty of human women and were struck by their allure. They felt the powerful pull of emotion and the depth of human connection. Overcome by their newfound passion, the Watchers made an unholy pact. They chose to take human wives, a union forbidden in the heavens, knowing full well the consequences that might follow. Their descent to earth was not just a physical one, it was a metaphysical breaking of divine law. This act of rebellion would trigger the birth of the Nephilim, giants who were neither fully human nor fully angelic. These hybrid beings were imbued with both divine knowledge and earthly desires, creating a paradoxical existence that straddled two worlds. But the Watchers did not only corrupt the natural order with their choice of wives. They also shared with humanity the forbidden secrets of the heavens, knowledge meant only for the divine. They imparted their wisdom on subjects ranging from astrology to metalworking, from magic to warfare. They revealed the secrets of the cosmos, the mysteries of the stars, the intricacies of the natural world. The teachings they offered were potent, far beyond the understanding of mortal men. With their help, humanity was able to rise to new heights of achievement, but at a terrible cost. As the Watchers taught humanity these secrets, they inadvertently awakened a darker side to their creations. The Nephilim, born of their union with human women, became beings of immense power but also of immense conflict. These giants, towering over men, possessed abilities that no mortal could match. They wielded the power of the heavens, but they lacked the wisdom to control it. The world, which had once known peace, now teetered on the edge of chaos. The consequences of the Watchers' actions were immediate and far-reaching. The earth began to suffer under the weight of their decisions. The Nephilim, with their vast power, became tyrants, ruling over the human race with an iron fist. They brought destruction, war, and suffering, their very presence unsettling the natural balance of the world. The Watchers, who had once been divine stewards, now found themselves trapped in their own creation, unable to undo the damage they had wrought. In the heavens, the response was swift. The divine council, horrified by the rebellion of the Watchers, decreed that they must be punished for their transgression. The consequences for the Watchers were severe. They were bound in chains and cast into the abyss, never to return to the heavens again. The punishment was both a warning and a judgment, one that would echo through the ages. However, the punishment of the Watchers was not the end of the story. The legacy they left behind, in the form of the Nephilim, would continue to haunt humanity for generations. These giants were not easily erased, and their bloodline would leave an indelible mark on the earth. The world, now forever changed, would have to reckon with the aftermath of the Watchers' fall. This chapter explores the fall of the Watchers from their divine station, their decision to descend to earth, and the catastrophic consequences of their rebellion. It delves into the conflict between divine authority and mortal desire, illustrating how the line between the two blurred, leading to the creation of the Nephilim. It's a tale of power, temptation, and the profound effects of crossing boundaries that were never meant to be crossed. The birth of the Nephilim, the offspring of the Watchers and human women, marks a pivotal moment in the unfolding narrative of the Book of Enoch. These giants, towering over ordinary men, embodied the divine and the human, making them a paradox in their very existence. While their size and strength made them formidable, it was their connection to both heaven and earth that made them unique and dangerous. Born from the union of celestial beings and mortal women, the Nephilim were not bound by the same limitations as regular humans. They inherited the power and wisdom of the angels, combined with the flesh and desires of humanity. They were beings of immense strength, capable of feats that defied the natural laws of the world. With their towering frames and godlike abilities, the Nephilim were feared and revered by those who encountered them. As giants, they commanded attention wherever they went. Their physical presence was enough to intimidate entire villages, but it was their spiritual and intellectual capacities that truly set them apart. The Nephilim, despite their monstrous size, were not mindless beasts. They were incredibly intelligent, capable of understanding the most complex teachings that the Watchers had shared with humanity. Their insight into the universe, the stars, and the forces of nature made them both revered and feared by the humans who lived in their shadow. But with their power came a corruption that could not be ignored. The Nephilim were not simply powerful, they were selfish and tyrannical. Unchecked by the moral boundaries that limited mortals, they used their strength to dominate the earth. They became dictators, forcing humans into submission, using their abilities to conquer and control the world around them. Their power, which was meant to be a blessing, became a curse, as they used it to satisfy their own desires rather than to uplift humanity. The Nephilim's reign over the earth was one of chaos and destruction. While they were capable of great feats of strength and wisdom, they also possessed a darkness that made them dangerous to their creators and the world at large. They were creatures of great arrogance, believing that their power made them above the gods and above the law. They were living embodiments of hubris, defying the divine order and wreaking havoc upon the earth. Their influence stretched far beyond mere physical dominance. The Nephilim, through their supernatural abilities, were able to teach humanity forbidden arts. They shared their knowledge of alchemy, astrology, and warfare, skills that were once considered the domain of the divine. While this knowledge allowed humans to rise in power and sophistication, it also brought about destruction. As humanity learned to wield this newfound power, they began to take on more of the Nephilim's traits, becoming more violent, more aggressive, and less connected to the divine. The chaos created by the Nephilim's rule was not just a matter of human suffering, it was a cosmic imbalance. The natural world itself began to suffer from the weight of their actions. The earth, once lush and fertile, began to dry up. The skies grew dark, and storms ravaged the land. The consequences of their actions were felt by all living beings, as the giants' dominance threatened to bring the entire world to its knees. Yet, the Nephilim were not all powerful. As the ancient stories tell us, there were those among them who began to question their place in the world. Some of the Nephilim, disillusioned by their arrogance and power, began to see the error of their ways. They recognized the harm they were causing and the imbalance they had created. But even as they began to doubt their own actions, they were trapped in their own creation. The legacy of their existence was one of destruction, and no matter how much they tried to reverse their actions, it was too late. The Book of Enoch reveals that the Nephilim were not destined to last forever. Their reign was brief, yet incredibly impactful. The world could not bear the weight of their power and violence. It was only a matter of time before the divine would intervene to restore balance to the earth. But the legacy of the Nephilim would endure, their influence remaining in the myths, stories, and legends that would echo through history. In the end, the Nephilim were both a product of divine ambition and human weakness. They were beings of power, yes, but they were also tragedies, victims of their own unchecked desires. Their story serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us that power, when not tempered by wisdom and humility, can lead to ruin. The Nephilim may have been giants, but they were also broken beings, lost between two worlds, neither fully divine nor fully human. The story of the Watchers and the Nephilim is not simply a tale of celestial rebellion and earthly chaos. It is, at its core, a story of a cosmic struggle between good and evil, where divine laws clash with human desires, and the very fabric of reality is threatened by the consequences of such a conflict. The rebellion of the Watchers was more than a betrayal of divine authority. It was the opening of a rift between heaven and earth, a cosmic battle where the forces of good and evil would engage in a struggle that would have ramifications for eternity. The descent of the angels and the birth of the Nephilim were the beginning of a long war that would be fought not just in the heavens, but in the hearts of humans and in the very soul of the world itself. The Watchers, in their rebellion, unleashed not just physical chaos, but a deeper spiritual disorder. The forbidden knowledge they shared with humanity ignited desires that were once suppressed, but it also led to a loss of moral direction. The very essence of humanity was challenged, as the line between good and evil became increasingly blurred. The Nephilim, as the offspring of these fallen angels, embodied this very conflict. They were beings of incredible power and potential, but also of arrogance, selfishness, and destruction. As the giants roamed the earth, their actions became a direct challenge to the divine order. The forces of good, those who adhered to divine law, watched in horror as the world descended into chaos. Humanity, under the influence of the Nephilim and the teachings of the Watchers, was drifting further away from its intended path. Greed, violence, and corruption spread across the land, and the heavens could no longer remain silent. In response, the divine realm began to take action. The angels, those who had remained faithful to God's will, were sent to intervene and restore order. It was a cosmic battle between those who sought to uphold divine law and those who had fallen from grace. But this battle was not simply a matter of physical confrontation. It was a battle of wills, of ideologies, of power. Enoch, the chosen prophet, played a critical role in this battle. As the only mortal to be allowed a glimpse into the heavenly realm, he was tasked with being a messenger of divine judgment. His journey through the heavens was not just a matter of witnessing the downfall of the Watchers, but of understanding the larger implications of their actions. Enoch was able to see the divine consequences of their rebellion, and he was the one who would carry the message of divine retribution to the earth. This struggle was not just between angels and giants, or between the divine and the rebellious. It was also a battle within the hearts of humans. The actions of the Watchers and the birth of the Nephilim had ignited a war within the human soul. Humans, now equipped with forbidden knowledge, were faced with the ultimate moral dilemma: to follow the path of righteousness or to be consumed by the darker desires that had been unleashed. The choice was clear, but it was not easy. Power, once tasted, is hard to relinquish. As the cosmic conflict escalated, it became evident that the Earth could no longer bear the weight of the battle between good and evil. The very foundations of the natural world were crumbling. Storms, earthquakes, and famine ravaged the land, signs of the divine anger at the corruption that had taken root. The Nephilim's reign was no longer one of domination, but of destruction, as they brought the world to the edge of annihilation. The divine response was inevitable. The Watchers and the Nephilim could not be allowed to continue their reign of terror. Divine justice was swift and final. The Watchers were bound in chains and cast into the abyss, their power stripped from them, and their rebellious actions erased from the heavens. The Nephilim, too, were marked for destruction, their existence bringing more harm than good to the world. But even in the face of this cosmic battle, there was a glimmer of hope. The forces of good, those who had remained faithful to the divine order, emerged victorious. With the punishment of the Watchers and the eventual downfall of the Nephilim, a new chapter in the history of the world began. It was a time for healing, for redemption, for a return to the divine principles that had been forgotten. The struggle between good and evil was not simply about angels and demons, gods and giants. It was about the nature of humanity itself. The story of the Watchers, the Nephilim, and the cosmic war they sparked is ultimately a reflection of the battle that rages within every soul, a battle between the desires of the flesh and the call to something higher. It is a reminder that the choices we make, no matter how small, have consequences far beyond our understanding. In the end, the divine law prevailed, and the balance was restored. But the legacy of the Watchers and the Nephilim lived on, etched into the fabric of the world, reminding us that the battle between good and evil is never truly over. The story of the Nephilim did not end with their fall from power. Their influence, though seemingly erased from the world, left a mark so profound that it would continue to shape the course of history for generations to come. The legacy of these giants, their actions, and their offspring, became a part of the very fabric of the earth itself, a reminder that even the most powerful beings can never truly escape the consequences of their choices. The Nephilim were not simply mythic figures. They were the embodiment of an ancient truth. The consequences of defying divine order echo through the ages. Though their reign was brief, their impact was far-reaching. They left behind legends, stories, and symbols that would be passed down through the generations, influencing not only ancient civilizations but the future as well. The giants, born from the forbidden union of the Watchers and human women, were the first beings to walk the earth who were neither fully divine nor fully human. Their existence was a breach of the natural order, and it was this very anomaly that set the stage for their lasting impact on the world. Even after their physical existence faded, their influence lingered, reverberating through the myths and beliefs of countless cultures. One of the most profound ways the Nephilim shaped the world was through the myths and legends that arose in the aftermath of their reign. These giants became central figures in the folklore of many ancient peoples. In the Bible, they are referred to as the sons of God and daughters of men, a cryptic description that hints at their divine and human nature. They were seen as both heroes and monsters, reflecting the duality of their existence, beings of immense power, but also of terrible consequence. In Greek mythology, the Titans, who were also giants, share striking similarities with the Nephilim. They, too, were part of a world where the boundaries between the divine and the mortal were blurred. These mythic beings, much like the Nephilim, were eventually overthrown by the gods, yet their legacy persisted in the form of stories about their power and their downfall. The Titans and the Nephilim became symbols of the consequences of challenging the divine order and the dangers of unchecked ambition. In many cultures, the Nephilim were believed to be the ancestors of great kings and warriors, their bloodlines said to carry traces of their divine heritage. This belief persisted throughout history, as many rulers claimed descent from these giants to legitimize their own authority. The stories of the Nephilim became entwined with the rise of empires and the birth of civilizations. Their legacy, though often hidden beneath layers of myth and allegory, shaped the very way that people understood power, divinity, and destiny. Beyond myth, the Nephilim's influence can be found in the very structure of the world itself. The teachings and secrets they imparted to humanity, despite being forbidden, had lasting effects. The knowledge of warfare, alchemy, and astrology that the Watchers shared with humans became the foundation for many of the scientific and philosophical systems that would later emerge. While these teachings led to much destruction, they also led to advancements in civilization. The Nephilim, in their own way, helped humanity reach new heights, even as they caused untold suffering. In the modern world, the legacy of the Nephilim still lingers. While the giants themselves are no longer walking the earth, their story continues to inspire countless works of literature, film, and art. Their tale serves as a warning, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the consequences of defying divine law. Yet, it also serves as a cautionary tale about the potential within humanity to rise to greatness, or fall to destruction. Even in the spiritual realm, the Nephilim's legacy persists. Many believe that their actions set into motion a chain of events that would eventually lead to a final judgment, a reckoning that would determine the fate of both humanity and the divine beings who had fallen. In this sense, the Nephilim's legacy is not just a part of the past but an ongoing cosmic drama that continues to unfold. The Nephilim's legacy is one of complexity. It is not simply one of destruction and chaos. It is a story of knowledge, temptation, and fallibility. It is a story about the dangers of ambition, the limits of power, and the consequences of breaking boundaries that were meant to remain intact. Their influence can be seen not only in the myths of ancient cultures, but in the way modern society grapples with the same issues of power, corruption, and divine justice. In the end, the Nephilim's legacy is not one of easy answers. It is a reflection of the tension between humanity's desires and the divine laws that govern the universe. It serves as a reminder that the choices we make today, whether personal or global, will have consequences that stretch far beyond our understanding, influencing the course of history long after we are gone. The story of the Watchers, the Nephilim, and their cosmic struggle is not merely a tale of ancient rebellion or divine retribution. It carries lessons that are as relevant today as they were in the distant past. The events that unfolded, from the fall of the angels to the birth of the Nephilim, hold timeless truths about power, temptation, and the consequences of defying divine order. But beyond the narrative of ancient giants and celestial beings lies a call to action, a call to each of us, as individuals, to reflect on our own choices and the paths we walk. The central lesson of the Book of Enoch is the danger of knowledge without wisdom. The Watchers imparted knowledge that had the potential to elevate humanity, to push us beyond our earthly limitations. But without a foundation of moral guidance, this knowledge became destructive. The Nephilim, born of this union, were the result of a marriage between power and lack of understanding. They were giants, yet flawed, beings of incredible strength, but with the same weaknesses as humans. They were caught between two worlds and ultimately paid the price for not understanding the responsibility that came with their extraordinary abilities. The temptation to reach beyond the boundaries set before us is one that humans have always faced. Ambition, curiosity, and the desire for greatness can drive us to achieve remarkable things. But these very same forces, when unchecked, can lead us down paths of corruption and destruction. The Watchers made the fatal mistake of believing that their knowledge and power were their own to control, that they could handle the consequences of their actions without understanding the profound impact they would have on the world. This brings us to the lesson of humility. The Watchers' fall from grace was not just about breaking divine law, it was about forgetting their place in the universe. They believed they could transcend their limitations, that they could engage with humans without consequence. But the universe had its laws, laws that could not be broken without devastating repercussions. The Nephilim, as the unintended result of the Watchers' actions, embodied this failure. Their power, when used without wisdom, became a force of destruction rather than creation. The legacy of the Nephilim is a reminder that power, when wielded irresponsibly, can lead to chaos. In today's world, this lesson is no less important. Whether it's in the realm of technology, politics, or even our personal lives, we face similar temptations. We have knowledge at our fingertips, but do we always use it wisely? The Nephilim remind us that unchecked ambition can lead to disaster, that no matter how much power we gain, we must remain grounded in moral principles to ensure that it serves a higher purpose. But the story does not end in despair. There is also a lesson in redemption. Despite their fall, the Watchers were given a chance to repent. Though their punishment was severe, the very fact that they were judged by divine law shows that there is room for justice and for change. The punishment of the Watchers was not a final sentence. It was a way to restore balance to the universe. Their actions, though grave, did not go unnoticed by the divine, and the cosmic balance was eventually restored. This concept of redemption is powerful. It speaks to the human capacity for growth and change, even in the face of great mistakes. While the Nephilim's existence marked a time of chaos and destruction, it was also a call to action for those who came after them. It was a reminder that, no matter how far one has fallen, there is always a path back to righteousness. Forgiveness, though often hard to grasp, is a cornerstone of the divine order. The final lesson we can glean from the Book of Enoch is the importance of choices. In the end, the decisions made by the Watchers, the Nephilim, and even humanity itself created a domino effect that rippled through time, affecting not only the present but the future. Every choice, no matter how small it seems, has consequences. The Watchers' choice to descend to Earth and engage with humanity set into motion a series of events that ultimately shaped the fate of the world. The Nephilim's reign, though brief, altered the course of human history in ways that were felt for generations. In our own lives, we are constantly faced with choices that will shape our future. Whether we choose to act with humility or pride, with wisdom or ambition, the path we take will determine the outcome. The story of the Watchers and the Nephilim calls us to reflect on the impact of our own decisions. It challenges us to think carefully about the kind of legacy we want to leave behind. Will we be giants, like the Nephilim, full of power but ultimately lost to our own desires? Or will we rise to greatness through wisdom, humility, and the willingness to stay within the boundaries set for us? The story of the Watchers, the Nephilim, and the cosmic struggle between good and evil is more than just a myth. It is a call to action. It is a reminder that the choices we make today matter. And it challenges us to rise above our weaknesses, to seek wisdom in the face of temptation, and to recognize that even in our darkest moments, there is always room for redemption.